You're listening to a podcast called Gary, with me, Tom Mann.
And me, Adam Etheridge.
In this week's episode, we'll be talking about Beetlejuice 2, scheduled for release in September 2024, my verdict on Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, the return of Joaquin Phoenix reprising his role as the Joker in Folie à Deux, and the death of OJ Simpson. So Adam, you've just arrived at the house, and you told me that OJ Simpson died yesterday. I had no idea.
I know, it's a big shock, isn't it? It's like, it's one of those moments where if you watch the Naked Gun, or Naked Gun films where they, made that guy kind of fall downstairs in a wheelchair and over into a, run, gets flattened by a bus and, all these things. And, eventually, the guy, he just pops in, the sort of the quickest of moments when I realized that he did have cancer. He was struggling with cancer, and we just watched a video about days before, maybe a week before he passed away, showing that he was saying he was fit as a fiddle. And
you know what I love about what you've just said though is like you've not even mentioned the whole trial.
Yeah.
It's just like he did Naked Gun and then he died.
I kind of feel that, but it's like that moment where in my mind it's like, I'm fine. Like he does in like Naked Gun. He gets he wipes himself down and then gets smashed by a bus. And then and then it's it. And it's like, they go and see him in the hospital and he's like, completely like traction or whatever. And he's like, I'm fine. And then that's it. And he's literally, they've got a video of him going, I'm fine. And you can just imagine him going and walk through the door and go, boom. And that's it, it's it. Gone. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I never, again, I suppose the whole controversy around him was just so bizarre, because it was like it went from being like this kind of like hero to a lot of people to just some crazy-ish act, in terms of the acts that he did. Not even just the sort of, but did you hear about he kind of broke into someone's house or apartment in Vegas to try and get back his memorabilia? So, because he wanted the money for the memorabilia. It's just what the fuck,
The guy is an absolute narcissist. That's what I would say. I don't think narcissism was a big thing when the trial was going on and everything. But we've just watched a video of him only days ago saying how well he was and how all this talk of cancer and a hospice was just complete rubbish. Smiling away, absolutely barefaced lie. Now, he was obviously lying about something that was quite personal, and you can understand why he did. But the point is he lied with such ease. And that, to me, just tells you everything you need to know about OJ Simpson, because it's a whole joke, isn't it? It's a bit like, if you're referencing somebody that can't see too well, you mention Stevie Wonder. And if you want to talk about somebody who's guilty as hell, you talk about OJ Simpson. Like, nobody believes he was innocent. Nobody.
Yeah.
He even wrote a book. What was it called, Adam?
Yeah. He says it's like, I think it's called If I Did It, but as you can read, if you look at the book, the front just says, I did it. And then there's a tiny if hidden in the big capital I in red. And it's like, it's just one of those moments where it's you say, it's pure narcissism, because it's like, I did it. And just take a little if in there just to kind of it's like, literally like just to kind of just get out of being done again, or being, prosecuted for something else, it's like, it shows very much to me that he was just someone that we just did not know truly what he was like.
Yeah, he was, and I don't think, to me, he's just a classic, kind of psychopath narcissist, because he's so charming, and he'll perfectly be happy to put a smile on his face and lie through his teeth and write a book, like, as you say, called If I Did It, Confessions of a Serial Killer or something. But say I did it is the main kind of the thing that hits you in the book. So even if he was innocent, like the insensitivity. Somebody died, and he's just making a shit ton of money out of their death by sensationalizing his life. So of course he bloody did it, but crazy.
I just think it's quite funny in some ways that my memory of him really is still the piss take they made of him in a way by continuously kind of like just slapsticking him, in every kind of, possible way. And I don't know if that was just because he was such a big name at the time that they thought it would be funnier to have him not really being serious, but just being so ultra kind of like, buffoonery, that actually that's how I remember him.
But do you know who OJ Simpson nearly played? What famous character? James Cameron wanted him to play the Terminator.
Really?
Yeah, OJ could have been the Terminator.
Oh my
Or he
word.
auditioned for it.
Right.
Crazy, isn't it?
That is crazy. Because, God, just imagine if that had happened. I mean, I know, I think maybe we talked about it, but I do remember, I think it was actually in the Arnie documentary where he went and spoke to Cameron about another part. He was going to play the guy who went back in time, wasn't he? He was going to play it was Kyle
Reese.
And then he just told Cameron that he needed to be the Terminator. And I just think that again, another guy who's just a massive narcissist as well.
That was interesting, the way that Arnold got the part of the Terminator, because as you say, he wanted to play the hero. He was dead set against playing a villain because he thought that would typecast him, and he wanted to be a heroic leading man type figure. And then he was talking to James Cameron, and he's reading it, and he was really getting into the mindset of the Terminator, and he's saying, whoever plays this should play it like this.
Yeah.
And the more and more he talked, it was just like, why don't you just do the Terminator part? Because you obviously understand it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay.
And I think, as I say, that again comes from that kind of mindset of superiority, and that he had the ability to kind of tell James Cameron how that character was going to be, and I suppose in some ways we dodged a bullet in one way, but we never know actually if he'd have been the Terminator.
Maybe OJ could have been good at that.
Maybe that would have been prep for later on in life. Maybe that's why he didn't get the job, so he just reenacted it in real life.
It was meant to be. Sorry to that lady's family.
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. You've been and seen it, John. Tell me what you think, and tell me some of the things that people are going to enjoy.
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Went to it just thoroughly looking forward to seeing it. I went with my wife and kids, and I think me and my wife were probably more excited about seeing it than the kids were.
Yeah.
Because we grew up. I remember seeing the original Ghostbusters in the cinema in 1984, was it?
Yeah.
And I remember very clearly going on the bus. I was on the top deck. It was maybe at 5 or 6 at night, but in the winter, so it was very dark, and it was just so much fun. I still love Ghostbusters, and it makes me feel very nostalgic whenever I watch it. And as you say, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is like the 5th Ghostbusters film, right? Because there was Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters 2 with the same cast, then a gap of many, many years. Then you had the reboot with the all-female cast. That was number 3. Then you had the reboot.
Yeah.
The film prior to this one with a new kind of young cast, but mixing with the old as well. And then this sequel to that, Frozen Empire. So I really enjoyed the last reboot. What was it called? The first one again?
Oh gosh, I can't remember. But yeah, I thought it was again the. I think the thing is for me, going back to what you said about the original. I was to say we were 4, nearly 5, I imagine, depending on when it came out. Can't remember exactly when it came out, but I remember being told by my dad when the music came on, I wasn't allowed to sing. And this is something I've held against him all my life, is that it was like, he said, look, we're in the cinema now, and, you know, you need to basically respect the fact that other people don't want to hear you shouting Ghostbusters. And the first thing that everybody else did is shout Ghostbusters. So I looked at him with disgust and then carried on singing, you know.
Oh, good. So you did sing in the end.
Yes, but I missed the first. I was, you know, disappointed that you know, such a demand was placed on me in the light of kind of something that was, you know, it happened exactly as I imagined it was going to, you know.
Funny. So we both have very vivid memories of seeing Ghostbusters, but for different reasons.
Yes.
And I mean, we haven't even talked about the new one, but I will say again about the original Ghostbusters was the thing that is interesting. It's one of those films that you think, oh, I'm going to watch this with the kids now. And then you forget when you're watching it back how all of these 80s movies have slightly sexy, dodgy parts. They're allowed to have a sex scene, whether it's comedy or not. And of course, it's the bit where Dan Aykroyd is having fellatio by a ghost. And you're like, I don't know if the kids are getting that. I mean, they would do definitely now, but a few years ago, it's like, but I'm getting it now more than, or maybe I just completely forgot about bits like that.
And also how much dialogue's in it. Yeah. There's a lot of dialogue in it, and it's not that kind of, it wasn't pitched to an audience of just kids. It was pitched as a film that was kind of, I think of a lot of that time, it tried to sort of bridge the gap between parents taking their kids to see these things and enjoying it to a certain degree as well. So the bit of blue for dads, like you said, there's a mild amount of swearing in it, and a bit of, you know, peril and violence. I mean, as I say, the scenes where, and I mean, it's basically a lot of things in one film. I mean, it's got a bit of horror in it. It's got a, you know, and I think that's the thing. Like by today's standard, it's tame, but actually, if you look at kind of I think my kids got a bit bored initially when we turned it off because the kids were a bit like, I don't like this. Wimps, but it's like I was 4, man.
Were they scared? As in they don't like it because I'm scared, Daddy. That sort of
kind
thing.
of. I mean, it was. I mean, the opening scene. I mean, with in the library.
Oh, I mean, it scares me now.
Yeah, it is. It is horrific, and it is one of those things. But I think as a film, it probably doesn't stand up to being a kids' film. A bit like Gremlins doesn't sit up to being a kids' film. It's far too horrific, really, as to be actual kids' film. But at the same time, you know, it's something that I know as a kid growing up we watched.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we certainly did, and there was plenty of really quite dark things in those 80s films that we used to watch. Another one was The Young Sherlock Holmes. I remember that being quite dark as well, quite scary.
Yeah.
But so Frozen Empire, I think there was plenty to like about it. I was struck instantly by they used the original music. Yeah. So you know, the actual score, you know, all all that, which really puts you in the mood. The cast, I like the new cast, the new additions to it, like people like Paul Rudd. I cannot fail but to like Paul Rudd. Even if I don't like the film that he's in, I always enjoy his performances. He's just a very likable character.
Yeah, I think he strikes that kind of balance with sort of, you know, a lot of films. Even when he's tries to be serious, he does come off in a way or plays well this straight man but he is always a little bit goofy in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
He's trying to play it straight, but his whole thing is just being a bit kind of quirky anyway.
Definitely, and I think there are some actors, I think it just the way they are in real life probably comes through.
Yeah,
and I think he's a bit like Tom Hanks. He just seems like a very nice, personable guy in real life, and I think that comes through in the films he's in.
Yeah.
I thought the kids were pretty good again. It's got the Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things, for example, and it's got the original cast. It's obviously minus the people that are no longer with us.
Yeah,
it's got Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and they're in it much more than they were in the previous film Afterlife. So that was all really, really good. And
it's Sigourney Weaver in it.
Honestly, I don't think she was, but I might have missed it because I did fall asleep for 10 minutes. But I don't recall that she was in it, but I may be wrong. But what I would say is I didn't enjoy it as much as the first the reboot, the Afterlife.
Yeah.
And I think the reason was that Afterlife was very much about this new cast and their story. And then it interweaved it a bit with the Ghostbusters lore.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it starts out and they're already in New York. They are in the hearse. They're being Ghostbusters. They're dressed up in the original suits and everything. And so they're trying to really go hard on kind of bringing the two worlds together now. And so, although it was very fun and they did it really well, I felt like it was a bit... It kind of reminded me actually of Gremlins and then Gremlins 2 when they kind of moved it out of the small town and they moved that cast into the big city.
Yeah.
For me, it didn't quite work. It was like they were just throwing everything at it. They were throwing too much, but there was so much that nothing really stuck quite as well as it could have done. But I still enjoyed it. I think there's a guy in it who was what's his name? He's been in things like From Silicon Valley. He's an American Pakistani actor. He's not.
He was in the Eternals as well, wasn't he? He's quite a kind of quite a big sort of actor in the kind of current choice for a lot of things. He was like the voice of, I don't know if you've seen the film Migration with the ducks.
Yeah,
he's the main duck in that. But I know what you mean. I can't think of his name, but
I was just looking at the guy, and it's like.
While you look at that, I was going to say, from a perspective of someone who hasn't seen it yet, the snippets that I seem to see, and again, whether you'll corroborate this, is it seems again that they've created the Afterlife film, so they've rekindled the interest in Ghostbusters to a new generation of children. Then, to me, it feels a bit like this is going to be the last hurrah for these actors. So let's do a send-off almost. I mean, barring telling them, do they kill anyone else off in the end?
Not really killed off.
Right.
I think you're right. I think what they're trying to do from a business point of view is they're trying to go, right, let's re-galvanize this franchise. Then we can, the old cast we can kind of say bye-bye to, and people will be so in love with the new cast that they can do their own thing from now on. And that's very much what it felt like. And it was like, I just didn't feel like they brought the two worlds well enough together for me to buy the new cast as, right, this is the main thing now. Because even in the Afterlife, it was, even though the old people were in it very little, Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and etc., there was still a sense of anticipation that you were going to see them, which kind of held your interest.
Yeah.
If I knew going into a third film of this new cast that there was not going to be any of the originals in it, I don't think I'd be nearly as interested in it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I thought Afterlife did it well where they had him, Spengler, or the guy who plays Spengler, as the ghost.
Yes.
And to me, it was that was kind of like a real kind of just a lovely little kind of like sort of just gift of a taster of something that was special. It didn't have to be like this where it's like, the old guys kitting up. And like I say, I expected you to say, yeah, and so like Venkman gets killed or something like that, or, someone, they kind of get they basically lay their lives down for the new guys as such, and that would have been the kind of the thing I would have imagined a studio would have done, to go like, right, let's kind of like, as you say, send them off. They're all in bloody ghost land or whatever it is, with together, and that kind of thing, and actually, whether they do another film or not, it just becomes something they can leave up in the air then.
Absolutely. But they didn't do that. But I think maybe they're hedging their bets. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it quite as much as I was hoping to like it.
Do you think it might be one of those where if you watch it again, a bit like the Indiana Jones, with the skull crystal thing?
Skull, yeah.
I think that was a film I enjoyed more the next time I watched it.
Possibly. I didn't hate the Crystal Skull when I saw it the first time as much as 90% of the world did. But yeah, I think a lot of people experience, as you have, like, actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought. And it might well be, because I think that my expectations are maybe a little bit too high.
Yeah.
And so if I saw it again, I'm probably like, yeah, this is pretty okay. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so all in all, what are we going to give it? Say out of 10?
Ooh, I'd give it a 6.
A 6.
Although, having said that, I think my wife would give it a lot higher. I think she'd probably give it an 8.
Really?
And I think that I've seen a lot of other people, a lot of comments on Facebook and things, people saying they absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I do think you're right. I think it's one of those films that probably is going to do quite well in the cinema because of the expectation of what it's going to give you. But I mean, just looking at the poster, it's going to do that. I think for a lot of people, it's going to draw people in to watch it who were Beetlejuice then, but no, Ghostbusters fans. And then I say you've got the younger generation that are going to be taken to see these things by those parents.
Yes, but I think like your kids and my kids, the magic is just a bit lost on them.
Yeah.
So Beetlejuice 2 is scheduled for release September 2024, not long to wait. We've just watched an interview with Michael Keaton being very enthusiastic about it. What are your thoughts, Adam?
I just think I'm almost edging towards a bit worried that this is going to be a big pile of dog shit, really, because I think he just seems to be so bigging it up that I don't know. I think this could be, or lead people into being hugely underwhelmed. I mean, to be fair, for me, Beetlejuice wasn't one of my favorite films. I think what he said was true. It is like a bit of art because, Tim Burton, that's just kind of his thing, isn't it? He is weird, and it's kind of Marmite in a way in terms of what you watch. I think a lot of his things I can kind of tolerate, but they're never kind of things that I've watched thinking, God, I just love that film, love the way that looks, or the thing, do you know what I mean? Because that is what it's about. It is correct. It's arty film, visual.
Very visual.
Exactly. I mean, when you look at Beetlejuice now, look at the effects, I mean, they are horseshit, aren't they? I mean, they really are awful. I mean...
There's quite a bit of stop motion animation from what I remember and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, again, very Tim Burton.
Yes,
very Tim Burton. So yeah, for me, the kind of film or medium that it is just not one of my favorites. But again, I think as a thing, me going into it probably would be less critical because it doesn't mean as much to me. So I probably will less critical about the sequel. Thinking again, I wouldn't be sort of like overly critical about it because it wouldn't be so much emotion attached from the first one. But I imagine there's quite a lot of people who love that film in that way, who I suspect, unless they have done something that's going to be so amazing, like he's saying, and it's true, I think they're going to be disappointed.
Well, let's talk about the Beetlejuice 2 cast, because interestingly, in this one, Beetlejuice has a wife who is played by Monica Bellucci. And we also see the return, by the looks of it, according to our friend Google, of Winona Ryder, which is interesting, Catherine O'Hara. Somebody that there looks to be a few new actors. It looks like Willem Dafoe's in it, which will be interesting. I mean, I can't recall him ever being in a Tim Burton film that I've seen previously, but I can really see him in a Tim Burton film because he is a bizarre kind of performer, isn't he? I like Willem Dafoe, but he would fit well in a Tim Burton film.
Yeah, Justin Theroux, I think, again, strange. Again, usually plays, kind of a, sort of hunky kind of thing. He again, depends on what is he playing in this?
Is he any relation to Louis Theroux?
He is his cousin, I think.
Yeah, that's right, his cousin. He's got a brother as well who also makes documentaries, Louis Theroux. So that's interesting. You know what you were just saying though about it's not really so much on Beetlejuice 2, but something that actually we should have probably put as a topic this week was. Did you watch Steve Martin documentary?
No, I haven't yet. No.
Yeah, I downloaded on Plex and I watched it. And it was very interesting, actually, because especially the first half of his career. Now, I put it on and Jax couldn't stand watching it. She has to leave. My wife had to leave the room because she just found Steve Martin's stand-up act so Marmite. She just couldn't stand it. I mean, she likes Marmite, but she didn't really like Steve Martin's act. But that was kind of the point because he explains how he arrived at the comedy he was doing.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting story because he went through a lot of years of complete failure and not really doing very well at all to kind of get to this playing stadiums and things like that to be really as big as he was because he was very unique. He didn't want to do punchlines.
Very physical,
very physical, and he kind of didn't want there to be that kind of punchline where it's almost signifying to the audience now it's time to laugh. It was more like he almost wanted people to laugh at different times and all this. But one of the things he said was that it struck me, a few of the things that he was really super excited about and into were always the biggest failures. So I think you're right. When an actor is really into what they're doing and they're really enthusing about a film, oftentimes it's actually not that well received by audiences.
Yeah.
And actually as a YouTuber, when I've done I spent ages on some videos, been really excited and they've absolutely flopped.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of the artistic process. If you're just too invested in it, you're having too much fun and it's almost to the expense of the thing itself.
Yeah. I think and what he was saying, which was quite right, is that to replicate the kind of the energy / characteristics / the quirkiness of something like that, the original, it almost seems like it'd be very difficult without it being very different, unless that's what the way they do it is that it's actually a very different twist on the whole kind of scene it sets in the original, where it's meant to be about scaring the living ones and all that thing, and whether they turn it round on and it's like the actual the dead ones are the ones in peril and they need the living to save them somehow. But again, this is it. You can't have really a proper sequel of something, I think, like that without there being a huge compromise in most people's minds who go and watch it. I think there'll be a bit like the Bond thing. I think there'll be too many people's kind of expectation of what they want to see again without it actually not just being Beetlejuice 1 regurgitated. And, I think that's the thing, is that there'll be too many people that actually want to see this happen and have been waiting for it to happen, be disappointed that what they want from it doesn't actually happen.
I agree. I think Beetlejuice is a film that some people will feel very passionate about and be one of their favourites because it is such a polarising style Tim Burton. And so you or I, who, kind of enjoyed the original but aren't that bothered about it, will probably possibly be enjoy it more because our expectations are so low. But the cast again, we didn't mention Jenny Ortega. I don't know if you've seen.
Isn't she in Wednesday?
Yes, she's Wednesday, and that was very good. Did you watch Wednesday?
I did, and I like the fact that the girl who played Wednesday in the films is the teacher.
Yeah,
in the series,
Christina Ricci.
Yeah,
that worked well, didn't it?
Yeah, I liked it. I like that whole kind of that kind of quirkiness type, to the sort of the thing I'm watching. But at the same time, I don't know. I think with something like this, it's not going to be something that I think a lot of people are going to go rush out. I don't think they're going to make a huge amount of money at the box office with it.
No.
I think it will make more viewings on a platform. And I think that will be the thing, is that it'll have that kind of, again, that cult viewing.
That's what it is. It's a cult movie franchise now. Yeah.
I think that's the thing, is I think it's in some ways, if it had been a Netflix, you know what I mean? Like a Netflix production.
Yeah.
And actually, it was going to come, or even, again, I've come back to, again, a series. I think that would have been more interesting, because they could have had the Beetlejuice character being much more aloof and being kind of something that wasn't the main part, even though it's called Beetlejuice. They could have had it being much more about something a bit like the Ghostbusters film now that's just come out. It can have it about like a stranger, Stranger Things.
Yeah, you know what? I think, like we were just saying about Wednesday, I mean, that worked really well. I mean, obviously it was a series originally, wasn't it? The Addams Family, but I could completely see Beetlejuice as a series, actually. Strange though it sounds to think of a Tim Burton thing as a series, there's lots of stories that you could explore in Beetlejuice. So
he could just be this kind of like character that kind of somehow occasionally kind of is in it, and
because it's like it's a world, isn't it, that he inhabits that's got lots of different things in it. So I could see that.
So Joker 2, did you enjoy the first one?
I did. I liked the first one.
I do. I think the way that they have decided to depict this world a bit like I think they've done a very good job within the first one about making it into something that's realer, or more real,
grittier
than this kind of world of anything we've seen before. And even though he's horrific, he's still quite endearing
quite sympathetic character.
Yes. And I think this is the thing, is that you empathize with the fact that someone could be pushed to a point of breaking and becoming psychotic and taking these things out. So again, it'd be quite interesting how they adding this element of the love part into it, and then the duo, and the mixing this kind of, again, this element of I imagine it's going to be a lot of sort of this kind of crisis of love and sort of the whole kind of, again, this bubble that they then create around the sort of the acts that they do.
Yes, because of course in this one he's got a partner, isn't he? Harley.
Yes.
Harley Quinn, played by Lady Gaga. So it's a twosome, and brings a different dynamic to it, doesn't it?
Yes, well, and that's it, because I mean, I suppose we all think that Joker's like, sort of the one man kind of crime wave, but the lot of the newer films have put a lot of emphasis into Harley Quinn.
Yes, they have.
And I think this is the thing, is that actually it's quite good that if you're interested in sort of seeing something that's supposed that you would kind of have in your mind depicted in a way that actually makes you a bit more thinking, like, I could kind of understand that person a bit more, but actually it's tough. It's a tough thing to actually do in itself, because, usually a villain story is not necessarily endearing. So what the actor and the sort of the script and the thing that did very well for me was that I kind of was interested in his situation and, and that sort of, and how it even though he turns out to be this monster in the end.
It was very much played out like a tragedy to me. It was very much that. It was, and you had you have that prescience of the audience of kind of, you see what the character doesn't see, and you can see where it's headed, and it seems, and it's inevitable because it's the Joker, so it's not gonna have a happy ending, is it?
Yeah.
But a tragedy, and it was quite an emotional watch, the first one, actually. The bit that I found almost the saddest bit of all was how he obviously idolized the Robert De Niro character so much, and you knew that when they met, Robert De Niro was not going to reciprocate that feeling. Yeah. But to watch it was really quite. It was hard to watch, actually.
And I think that was wasn't it? It was you were nailing it in the fact that we were watching someone being stripped bit by bit to the point where they just couldn't take any more, and was trying to kind of reclaim some element of respect and this sort of thing, but by doing very monstrous and violent things, because he just didn't care anymore. And as I say, he'd been pushed and pushed and pushed by his environment to the point where he just accepted that people were going to be horrible to him. So why take it anymore?
Yeah.
So then, I suppose in a way, that then throws the dynamic. If you throw someone into a world, a person from a world who hates them and shows them no admiration, to then having these people that are kind of following him, so he becomes then this kind of like effectively kind of a bit of a god. Sort of, what's the God complex?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
added in with the possibility of someone then actually, loving him and then having this relationship, but at the same time, there's a certain amount of elements where I don't know whether he's saying to her, whether without me you're nothing, but there's a something in there.
In the trailer you gathered that impression, didn't you?
Yeah.
That there was a point where he was sort of turning and maybe believing his own myth a little bit, and as you say, he's kind of gone from maybe the first one where he's very much an outcast to being a cult leader in this one, maybe.
And I think that plays out in a lot of other films or things, that even though him and Harley are together, there seems to be this kind of he still has this element of superiority because he is the Joker, and there's this love-hate relationship between him and Harley, in terms of Harley loving him but actually hating him as well. So whether that is to say, it's going to be more about that sort of that kind of pain of someone admiring and being devoted, but it's not reciprocated.
Yeah.
So again, it's very, as I say, it's very complex potentially, and so that's the thing, is that it's good. I enjoyed watching something that was generally kind of like just very easy to accept, a villainous element character in a hero film.
Mm-hmm.
And then having the complexity of the script and film to actually not be kind of like, this is not interesting. Why would I be interested in a villain? Then they've managed to do that. And
totally. Yeah, they really. I think it was clever how they just got you to see the world through his eyes.
Yeah,
and that's probably why it's so dark, because when you can relate to a dark character like that, it is an uncomfortable feeling. And it was an uncomfortable watch, but very, very good, very compelling. I remember I didn't kind of want to take my eyes off it when I was watching it, really. And I think the second one's going to be good because it's still got Joaquin Phoenix, who's just a brilliant actor.
Yeah.
And I think Lady Gaga's good. I really enjoyed her in When a Star Is Born. Is that what it's called?
Yes, When a Star Is Born. Yeah, the remake. Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume she's singing the theme tune.
I think we could hear the theme tune. Yes.
So yes, well, I again, I think it does well to not show too much. Let's hope it continues to do that because again, I think it's a film that potentially is maybe a bit Marmite, but I think for me, that's kind of a film I would probably go to the cinema to watch, because I just think it would be quite epic in that very intense kind of way, being in the dark, watching it, not that kind of. I think it would loan itself very well to be a big picture, big screen type event.
Big time.